Hello again, it's Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics for this, the 1st of June, 2954 or 2024. If you're stuck in the past, this presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics for the members of the Aurora Republic, the premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting for the first time, let me start by saying welcome. Glad to have you with us. Love to hear more from you. If you're interested in hearing more from us, we're a lawful good organization focused on roleplay exploration and social interaction, and are active and recruited on Spectrum and Gilded. So tonight we're going over, like I said, we've gone through all of our basic aviation. We've gone through our money-making schemes or money-making methods in Star Citizen. Now we're going through mining school because it's a little more in-depth than everything else. So let's get with that. We'll hit the basics for mining. So we'll go through equipment, scanning, the mining vehicles, and then how to refine and sell. So the mining vehicles that are involved, of course, if you're doing ground surface mining for gemstones bigger than the hand mining, then you're going to be using a rock or rock DS. Let me get my rusty trusty laser pointer here, because I will be doing a lot of pointing out when we get to how the HUD works and stuff. So up here, you got the rock and the rock DS roughly to scale to each other. And then as far as spacecraft, you have the solo seat Prospector, the Mole, which is small multi-crew, the large multi-crew Arastra, and the capital size class Orion. These four ships are roughly in size scale to each other as shown here. The two Rock and Rock DS are in size scale to each other, but the two ground vehicles and the four aerospace vehicles are not scaled to each other, group to group. So the Arastra and the Orion are not in game yet. They are still in concept and have not been worked on, but the Prospector and the Mole and both of the Rock and the Rock DS are all in game and usable. All right. Go on to the next. What's going on with my? Okay, there we are. All right, so as far as FPS mining gadgets, you got of course the Grey Cat Industrial Multi-Tool with the Orbit mining attachment. You will need a backpack if you're out doing hand mining, because you'll be out finding rocks, gemstone rocks. You'll break them down with the Orbit mining attachment to break them. It works basically the same way as the spaceship mining, as far as we'll get into that in a minute. And then once you break the rock, that's the end of it. You don't have to go any farther, as far as you don't have to break multiple times. You can just pick the gems up off of the ground, put them in a backpack, and then head back to your ship to either go on to the next, or if you're all full up, then thermal protection. There are a few moons that are very, very cold and a few moons that are very, very hot. So you need to make sure that the armor that you're wearing will help give you the proper protection if you're going to be outside hand mining for any appreciable length of time. Usually when you get back into your ship, if you're using like a Prospector or something to find the rocks to go hand mine, you'll be fine every time you get back in. But if you are going to be out for a bit, then you will be getting hot or getting cold even through your standard equipment. And that's when you may want to use a Pembroke for hot or a Novikov for cold suits. That will pretty much protect you from all hots or colds respectively within the Stanton system. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Okay, scanning. So if you are in one of the spacecraft, so the Mole or the Prospector, this is specifically a Prospector that is shown here. The first thing you got to do to be able to find something to mine is you're going to have to scan. So you need to go into scanning mode. I believe it is Victor. Well, excuse me. Actually, the first thing you could do is you can long hold your tab key and let go. That will send out a scanning pulse. That will give you potential unknowns out in the distance within probably 10 or 12 kilometers and closer, so that you can see them out there and potentially find things that way. If you are out at range, then you can, for those, once you have gotten that initial ping return off of any of those unknown returns, then I believe it's Victor to get into your scanning mode if you haven't mapped that off to a key switch if you're using peripheral controls other than keyboard and mouse. When you get into scanning mode, you'll need to center up your crosshair on that unknown target at a distance, and then hold down the scan button, which I believe is also Victor, long hold to start the scan progress. It will show you a signal strength on the left, and on the right, it'll give a progress bar that increases. And when it gets done, it will show you an RS signature on the sides for what that item is at a distance. If all it has is an RS signature with those 4-digit numbers, then you have some sort of a mineable under your pipper, as shown right there. So here from the reading the numbers, those RS numbers coordinate specifically to either what type of deposit it is, whether it's an asteroid or surface deposit, as you can see right there. So if you're scanning and you're getting an 1870 like we were seeing there, then that is this type Q asteroid right here. And you can see from this distribution graph or distribution table that was put together by Red Monster Gaming, you can see that 1870, that type Q asteroid, is going to have a high chance of borace, agricium, and hephaestonite, medium chances of beryl, laranite, bexylite, and terranite, low chances of golden quantanium. And therefore, before you even fly that 11.3 kilometer distance over there, you can make a decision on whether or not this is something you want to go investigate, or whether you want to pass and go on to and keep scanning for something else. Okay, so once you do find something that is, you decide is worth your time to actually break, when you get up close to it, you will see that the asteroid or the rock deposit down on the ground will be highlighted in yellow around the edge once you pull up your mining equipment. So in the prospector and the mole, you hit M mic to bring out the mining rig, and now the entire HUD and everything goes into this mining mode, as you see here. And that is where you will see the yellow highlight around the deposit waiting to be broken down. The first mode you go in, it should default to, is fracture. You'll see the fracture mode at the top. You'll see the stats for your laser head for your mining rig is down in the lower left. And you will see what the pluses and minuses, if you have any modules that are added in, and how they affect your laser beam, as far as things like, resistance, instability, optimal rate, fracture power, all that kind of stuff. Depending on which mining laser head you have attached, and these things are just like any other component on a spacecraft, they can be swapped out the same way any other component, same way you can swap out coolers or shields, generators, any of that kind of stuff. Which mining head you have on there not only has its own stats, the laser head has its own stats, it'll also have a number of slots for mining modules, anywhere between 1 to 3. If you purchase modules to click into those slots, they will show up there, and their buffs and debuffs for your laser beam will also show up down here in the lower left. So that lower left takes into account what mining modules you have in. Some mining modules are passive and they just run the whole time. There are also some mining modules that have a specific effect that you have to command fire it. In other words, you have to fire it off, and then it lasts for X number of seconds. So it's kind of a temporary boost. And so you need to make sure you read all of the data about that mining module before you purchase it and install it wherever you want. Over on the right side, when you have your crosshair on the deposit, then you will see what the scan results are. Whenever you're in mining mode and you're in close like this, you don't have to command any sort of a scan. It's just auto scanning whenever you put your crosshair on anything while you're in mining mode and you are close enough within range. You can't do that from, you can't put that on a deposit at 11 kilometers and expect to be able to see anything in it. So The scan results you'll show over in the type, where you can see the type of deposit it is, its mass, its resistance, its stability. It'll make a computer's guess on how hard or easy this is going to be to crack, and then it'll also show you what its composition is. And as you can see in this example, it's showing you that it's 67.97% quartz and 32.02% of inert materials. Down in the lower right, you can see your cargo capacity. That'll show you. So standard unmodified prospector as 32 SCU in 4 8 SCU bags on the saddlebags on the hips there. And it has a progress bar along the bottom there, where you can see as it fills up, you can watch that fill up, so you know how close you are to being full. Up at the top shows you what mode you're in right now with your laser. So if you left click, that turns the laser on and off. We're going to do keyboard and mouse controls as default. And then right click will switch you between fracture mode and extraction mode. So you start off in fracture mode because you got to bust the rock down. On the left side, we'll show you the outer curved scale is your distance from the rock measured at the gun cross in your HUD. And you'll notice that there is an optimal range tick up there to show you where you're going to get the most bang for the buck as far as efficiency on your laser beam. If you are closer than that optimal, you are actually losing efficiency. So getting close enough to put the laser head right on the rock actually does not make things better. It makes it slightly worse. If you are at that optimal range tick, you are at the optimal range, and then you're going to get the maximum amount of oomph out of your laser. The inner curved scale is your velocity scale, just like your normal HUD. You when you're in the mining HUD like this, you still have that available. It just moves in and goes into a reduced state, so you can still see what your velocities are. Obviously, you're probably going to do most of this sitting still, either floating in space where you're busting the asteroid, or hovering near a surface deposit. Over on the right side are the scales that you actually use for breaking the rock. When you turn on the laser, and you can now start rolling your scroll wheel forward or back, that turns up this laser intensity right here. And it also has it both in a digital readout and in a graphical curve progress bar form. You control that with your mouse wheel up and down. And as you pump energy down that laser beam, the inner larger bar is the progress bar for how the rock is going towards fracture. It will start filling up from the bottom as you pump energy into it. And then when it gets up into the green range, you'll have to throttle that laser intensity a little bit with you'll have to feather it down. And as you hold the progress bar in the green zone, this green zone starts filling up from right to left. When it makes it all the way full to the left, that's when the rock cracks. Your laser beam will shut off on its own. You don't have to shut it off yourself at the point of fracture. And the rock will bust up into several pieces. If you let that charge meter go above into the overcharge zone, then that is also a separate progress bar that will fill up right from the right to the left. And that amount of overcharge is how much of a bomb you are turning this deposit into. So if it cracks with any amount of charge in it, the more charge that is the more overcharge that is in the rock when it cracks, the bigger the explosion will be. If it's just a little bit of overcharge, like if you do it perfectly without any overcharge, then when the rock cracks, the pieces basically just fall right where they are if you're on a surface, or they just kind of float apart a little bit from each other. They don't really have much velocity, and they just kind of float apart where all the pieces are like 3 or 4 feet apart from each other if you're out in space. And then they just kind of hang there for you to start the next stage. If you have a little bit of red bar built up in here, that is both impetus for these pieces to fly away from each other and potential damage to happen back on your ship and blast through your own shields. If you have most of this red bar, full or all the way full, then this thing goes off like a very, very kinetically energetic bomb, and you will blow through your own shields, and you very, very easily can blow yourself up doing this if you overcharge. If you see that happening and you go past in here and it starts to overcharge, and you are smart and either turn your laser off, move the laser off, or throttle properly, and you then as the progress bar, as the charge drops back down out of the overcharge will start slowly reducing and cooling off over time. So when you start overheating a rock like this, that doesn't mean you're boned and you're screwed. It just means if you have the discipline to turn your laser off, stop pumping energy into it, back away from it to make sure if it does go off, it doesn't take you with it. You can maybe you go to another rock nearby and work on that while this thing cools down, but over time it will cool down and come back to a more inert state, so you can come back and try again. If you have any amount of overcharge when it does crack, that percentage of overcharge is also how much of the goodies that are in the rock get destroyed by your bad miningmanship. So overcharge is bad for cracking the rock when it cracks the rock, not only because it goes off, but you also lose some stuff. You'll lose some of the goodies out of it because you've melted it away with your laser beam. So that's the gist. All right, so here's a picture when you're right on optimal distance, and it'll actually have a number for how far you are surface to tip of the laser beam. Notice that the rock says a different number than that on the scan, because that's from the center of the object to your skull. So 31 over here is this optimal distance, which is the surface of the rock to the tip of the laser beam right there. So getting right on that optimal is important. When you do that, all of the stuff will start turning green. That's when you want to turn on the laser and start busting this. It'll look like this. And you'll have to fly the laser intensity with your mouse wheel right down there. And that's where your eyes are focused. As you can see, the charge level bars start increasing. It gets up into the green. You start flying your mouse wheel for the power level to hold that right in there, because that's where instability, the higher the instability, the more that this will swing around in comparison to your how much power you're putting down the laser beam. If it has really low instability, then when you have your intensity set still, then you'll get this nice steady rate. The higher the instability, the less steady that rate is, and the more it varies, and can make it harder to stay in that green area. So this is the kind of the demonstration of like the perfect cracking of the rock, where you get it with no overcharge whatsoever. The green bar hits the top. You will see the actual visuals out on the rock will change. You'll be able to see fault lines and fracture lines in it heat up. If you do start putting overcharge in it, then the whole damn rock will start glowing red as an extra visual indicator that you're building a bomb here. You need to stop pumping energy down the beam into the rock, and you may need to like back off and run away for a sec in case it does go off. When it does break apart off of that perfect fracture, this is an asteroid. It'll crack to something about like this. And now's where you're going to need to move around to each of the pieces with your crosshair, and it will let you know with the highlight whether or not it needs to be fractured down smaller or whether you can go ahead and extract. If that highlight around the edge of the piece is purple, you can go ahead right to extraction. If it's yellow, it means it's still too big and you need to fracture it again. So for example, here, this piece is obviously still too big. So it's highlighted around the edges in yellow, saying you got to go ahead and fracture that one again. Second verse, same as the first, just like you did for when the rock was all together as one big one. But remember that how much in laser intensity you're going to have to dump into it is also a function of mass. So now that you've broken this is a much smaller piece. You are not going to need all of the juice that you can put down. Usually on the first, when the rocks are big, you're probably going to be up near 100% or close to it, working in that area. After that first crack, the pieces are not going to need 100%. You will melt them and blow them up if you just come robotically shooting 100% intensity into them right off the bat without checking. So remember that you're going to be back in the lower part of the intensity scale when you're working with smaller pieces. And you can see all of that there. When they're highlighted in edge highlighted in purple, that means they're ready to go to extraction. You right click and it moves that top part from fracture mode on the left over to extraction mode on the right, like that. And then when you turn it on, you don't have to do anything with the mouse wheel. The extraction beam is just a set thing. You just touch the rock with it. You'll see little pieces of rock will start jittering off of it and like flying up the tractor beam part of it and sucking it up in this. And your laser head now acts like a Hoover vacuum, and it just and sucks up all the pieces. And you'll start watching your cargo your cargo meter down on the lower right will start filling up. And when you're in extraction mode, that progress bar, that curved progress bar on the right side, that was the progress of cracking the rock, now turns into a second cargo meter. So you can see how you're doing. Those two things are linked. That cargo meter in the lower right and the one on the right side, the curved one on the right side of the main HUD area, are the same cargo progress bar. All right. So now you do that, wash, rinse, and repeat until you got a prospector full of stuff, 32 SCU full of things, or a mole. And I don't remember what the mole capacity is, but I think it's 2 or 3 times the prospector. So yeah, you come back to a refinery and you can either sell the raw ore or you can refine it, which is up to you. If you want to sell, you go to the short waist high kiosks on the left. If you want to refine, you go to the full standing height kiosks on the right. The short ones on the left look like this. They look like any other commodity trading thing. You come in, except for there is no buy or sell because you can only sell at these. That's all you ever do with raw ore. It'll come in. You'll have to choose what prospector if you have multiple ones, or obviously there'll only be one thing in the pull down. It'll show you what's in there, what that the refinery here accepts, which pretty much all the refinery decks accept almost everything. And then you can choose how much they're going to offer you and then whether or not you want to sell it to the refinery or not. When you sell the raw ore, you're done. Your prospector is empty. You turn back out and go do some more mining. If you want to refine it, then you go to the standing full-size kiosks on the right. You come up there, it'll say something like this. You hit the begin button down below, and now's where you can start setting up an order. The first thing you'll see upper left is the station profile. The different refinery decks at the different stations have different things that they're good or bad at. And this is so you can see where the buffs and debuffs, the pluses and minuses for the different, for the refinery that you are at has for the different materials. If it's not listed here, then it is not, then it's at a 0% buff or debuff to the yield. You're going to get a normal 1-to-1. But like in this example, if you brought corundum, then you're going to get a plus 2% yield here at the, at this particular refinery. The next thing, come on. As you can see here in the center, in this example where I was taking these screenshots from, I already have 2 previous batches that are in process. So you can see your previous processed batches as they are in work. As here you can see, I've got one that's got 26 hours and 12 minutes. Obviously, the first one that I put in this particular session, I have 26 hours and 12 minutes remaining for it to process. And the second one, I have 26 hours and 35 minutes. So you can see that at least based on those, I was making roughly 23-minute round trip between setting up a refinery job, going out more mining, and coming back and setting up the next refinery job. These refinery jobs stack up in order from right to left, and they will scroll off the right side of the screen. So if you have so many jobs stacked up that you can't show them all on the screen, there will be a scroll slider bar across the bottom. Down in the lower left, you'll get the details where you pick what ship you're going to come from. So of course, you're probably only going to have one ship that you're mining with right now. So when you land here, unless this is your home base where you have all of your ships, you're probably only going to see like the prospector or the mole that you flew up and landed in will show up in this down. And then you need to hit setup where it'll show you what's in it. So obviously this is a progress bar that says that this prospector is completely full. There's 3,199 centa SCU. So if you're not familiar, commodities are sold and are sold in 1/100th of an SCU. So this is a 32 SCU that's showing you that there's 31.99 SCU worth of refinable materials, meaning there's a, what is that, 0.001 of an SCU of inert that's hiding in there somewhere. And then you hit set up the work order. It will then kick open the next batch, which is shown there. The total amount up at the top, and then you'll have this pull down where you can choose which refinery method you want them to use. They have the different refining methods have differences in speed, cost, and yield. And so you can click through each of those, choose which one is what you want to do. Do you want it turned around fast and you're willing to give up a lot of the goodies for moderate cost, or do you want to go really slow and have to wait a long time, not pay very much, but you're going to get the maximum yield out of it? You can choose all of those sort of methods. You'll see everything that's in there. You can have switches to yes, refine this or not. So if there are any materials, if you were only interested in the agricium and you didn't care about the quartz, you just turn the agricium on only and not the quartz, and then they will basically, I assume that the refinery then just takes the quartz for itself, or the game just throws the quartz overboard. I don't know what they do if you don't. I always just refine everything, even if I have junk like quartz in there. I just go ahead and refine it anyway, because you drug it here, you might as well get it refined and get whatever alpha UEC you might be able to get out of it. Once you've selected, okay, this is me with the I have the pull down, so you got a, I don't know, what is that, 8? You got 8 or 9 different possible refining methods, refining processes you could choose from, and they all have different levels of, like I said, of it's that whole three-way triangle of speed, price, and yield. And you can have two, but not 3. So you hit that get quote, it'll show you, okay, for what you chose, it's going to cost you that much alpha UEC, and it's going to take, in this case, I took Dynex solventation. Why? Because it's the slowest speed, it's the lowest cost and the highest yield. So I was like, I don't care how long it takes, that I'm willing to go slow. Don't charge me very much and give me the most bang for the buck, which is what I'm after. And that's also what I did on these 2 previous ones. So you can see how they take long numbers of hours to play. You hit confirm, review this when you're done. That's how much they're going to charge you, how long it's going to take. Hit confirm, and you're off to the races. Bang, it says accepted. And now it looks like all of the other work orders you have there. So one typical way for folks who are sort of professional miners, what they will do is if they're going to refine, then they will just basically, set up a refining job, and they'll go back out and mine and come back and set up the next refining job. And so they'll have these refining batches stacked up, being, if they're using a really slow method like I do, this is, by the time I'm done after a 2 or 3 hour session and I've got 5 or 6 of these stacked up, then that's going to be basically a day. So what that means is I leave these stacked up and then I'm done for the day, right? When I'm done, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow when I play tomorrow, and I will come here to go sell these stuff. So a lot of the pro miners just basically do it that way. And you can just print money doing it this way. It takes a little bit of time, but once you kind of have that flow set up where you have a set of jobs already, a bunch of batches already in a refinery processing, you go over here and you continue mining, and then you go the next day, you come back, go sell all of yesterday's batches that are now complete, and then go back to your prospector, for example, and go continue to just stack those jobs up. And if every day that you play, you come in, go sell, and then go mine and set up all of the jobs, wash, rinse, repeat until you have 5 or 6 jobs set up, and then log off for the night. And while the next day while you sleep, and the next day while you're at work and all that kind of stuff, those jobs are running in real time in the game, so that the next time they should hopefully be just waiting on you. Selling the refined material. Once you come back and all of those refinery jobs are done, the refined material is not an ore. The refined material, as far as game terms, is now a commodity, just like it is when if you were taking a cargo ship and flying to location A to buy low and haul it to location B to sell high. So now this refining is basically your location A, and you don't have to buy it. You were the one who mined it and then paid for it to get refined. So you're going to need a cargo ship of sufficient size to haul your jobs, and you can't take a partial job out. So, for example, you show up with, say, a Cutlass Black, which has 46 SCU, and the job that you have, one of the jobs has pretty close to 32 SCU worth of goodies in it. That first job, you're going to say, okay, load at that refinery terminal. You're going to say, put that in the Cutlass Black. That's going to put 32 of your 46 SCU in. You can't go to the next job sitting right next to it in the kiosk and fill the rest of that 46 up with a portion of the second job. So those jobs have to be hauled away all at once, and you can't crack them open and take pieces of them. So thinking about that when you're kind of choosing the size of your hauler, so Cutlass Black works great, but maybe a freelancer will work better, because with 66 SCU in a freelancer, you can get two. If you're getting a full 32 SCU out of a mining trip per job, that's two of them that you can get into a freelancer and only have 1 or 2 SCU of wasted space in your freelancer. And that might be a little more efficient for when you fly it away to go sell it. You're pretty much going to be going to pretty much any TDD. That's not a hard and fast rule, because obviously if whatever you have in those commodity boxes, if they were all agresium, you can basically sell them at any place that buys agresium. The TDDs buy everything. So that's usually where people are going to go. They're going to take it from the refinery and go to a TDD, because that's a little less work, even if it might be a few pennies less per unit. That's what typically most people will do, but that's not hard and fast. If you've been mining nothing but, in this example, agresium, and you know that Deacon's research outpost on Yella is buying agresium for stupid amounts of money, you can actually take it there and sell it there. So when that says sell at any TDD, that's the most common, but not 100% necessary. Any questions about mining? It's kind of a big subject.
I have one real quick. The distance meter that was centered, I didn't quite see it real good. So it showed you like if you were too far or too close.
Is
that right new?
There? It's been in for quite a few patches. When they reworked the whole HUD, this came in.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah. So that goes left and right to show your distance.
This little tick mark slides up and down this curve.
It's that big. Okay.
Yeah, it's that big. This tick down here that says scan, that's the maximum range that you can be back, and the auto scan feature of the mining rig will work. If the distance, if you put your crosshair on the rock and the distance is down here, you won't get any of this information right there in the upper right, because you're outside of the auto scan distance. So that tick mark says scan. That's why it lets you know, hey, this is the auto scan distance. And then this is sort of the min and max range of the laser beam, and it'll give you an optimal tick based on your laser type, your modules, and the stats of the rock, the resistance and stability. So this can also, that tick mark, where it's the optimal tick mark, will move up and down in here depending on, it doesn't move while you're mining. It'll be like this rock, it'll be here. The next rock, because that stats may be different. The next rock, that optimal mark might be over here. Cool. So yeah, that line and that readout moves up and down the curve.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right. That wraps up this installment of Academics with Foghorn. Hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions I didn't answer, please feel free to contact me via email, Gilded Spectrum, or of course, the comments section below. If you're watching this later, I'll answer to the best of my ability as soon as I see it. Please hit those follow and subscribe buttons as appropriate. Comment your comments in the comments. We do read the ones we like and mock the ones we don't. You can find out more information about the Aurora Republic at aurorarepublic.space, or of course on Spectrum at robertspaceindustriescom/org/aurora-rep. See you next time. Foghorn signing off, wishing you a very pleasant remainder of your afternoon, morning, and or evening. And thank you so very much for watching, you glorious people.